In our last video from our spring trip to Florida, we accidentally went to the wrong resort and we ended up being the only tent at an RV park. But we made the best of it. It was nice to stay this close to the Peace River and to just walk around and check out everybody's setup and see how the snowbirds make it work in the winter. But then the next day we packed everything up and we were heading to another state park, thank goodness. So we headed a little bit farther inland to Highland Hammock State Park. And this ended up being one of my favorite parts of our trip to Florida.
So don't let the weight of the world slow you down. And if you search for the meaning of life, it won't be found. So take your insecurities and leave them all behind. Let's learn to make the most of our time.
It really does end. Since we were coming from the west side of Florida, we ended up going into the back entrance of the park. And this ended up being a nice drive, but we were still too early to check into our campsite since we left our resort so early. Bicycles.
There's a golf cart sign too.
The park has a picnic area with a camp store and a museum of the work that the CCC did in Florida to establish some of the state parks like this one. So we were able to kill some time there. When we were camping, we kept saying, oh, well, at least there's no bears here. Guess we didn't realize there are in fact bears. Yeah, because we're like somewhere around here. So definitely bears. This is the picnic area right by the camp store. There were quite a few RVers and a really neat truck camper hanging out there. There's even a pavilion in case it rains. But then we went in to check out the camp store and they had a few interesting exhibits. And one of the things that I read online was that we needed to try their ice cream while we were there. Getting a stick?
Bullets.
That's funny. Well, Florida. That's funny. We're in the South. Oh, now we can say you saw a gator. They had locally grown oranges and fresh squeezed orange juice, but I was looking for that ice cream that I heard was so good. Orange vanilla twist.
You get more?
You don't want to share?
Okay. Smell it. That's good. Refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
Creamy.
It's a creamsicle.
Mm. The orange is very tasty.
Yeah.
Glad we got both.
It's like a creamsicle flavored sherbet. Very good. Definitely make sure you try it if you're at Highland Hammock. We went back into the camp store and got a couple bundles of firewood so that we could have a fire tonight. And then we decided to head over to the CCC Museum and check that out. Hello.
It's kind of funny. Every place we go, we keep wheeling around into this.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
When I was a young man of 18, I came here.
An original tiny house.
That's a Jacob.
This little museum is quite well done. It has a lot of interesting information, and a lot of the exhibits are very interactive. The interesting thing is to see all of the different projects that were undertaken by the CCC. And I know I grew up in a town playing soccer at a field that had a stone amphitheater built around the field, and that amphitheater was built by the CCC.
What is that one called? That's how got me going. We had one of those.
Many of the workers were described as very young men, capable of doing hard physical labor. A lot of them were taking the money and sending it home, and they were making somewhere around $8 to $9 a week. And since their housing and their food was taken care of, although it was pretty rough accommodations, they were living in camps basically, they were able to send that money home to support their families.
Yeah, go build something.
Where am I going?
Not sure.
Just go straight.
Yes. Maybe to this very official looking building.
Should I stop at it?
Sure.
Your destination is on the left.
Okay.
We checked in at the ranger station and then headed over toward our campsite. And I thought it was funny that the ranger sort of laughed when I said we were in the wilderness area. But on the way down the bumpy road, all of a sudden, our microphone disconnected. So the rest of the video from this day does not have any audio. Basically, the wilderness area is a separate area from the main part of the campground where they have RVs and hookups and showers. And there's just one composting toilet, but there's a road that goes right behind it. So you are definitely not in the middle of nowhere.
You can have pets.
You can?
Yeah. Let's go home and get Redford.
Just get him. 16-hour drive.
Oh, Redford.
There are only 16 campsites on this loop, and they're pretty open and sunny, not much shade, but the nice thing is that each spot is separated by some trees and some shrubbery, so you do get more privacy here than you would at the main campground. And we were still able to drive over there and use the showers and the bathrooms and stuff like that when we wanted to. We had to pull our picnic table over from the other site because somebody had moved that over. So once again, we found ourselves at a site without a picnic table, but we fixed that. And then Patrick used his very interesting method of figuring out where we should put the tent by going down on the ground and trying to find the most level spot possible where it would be the most comfortable to sleep. Once Patrick had picked the perfect spot to put the tent, he started setting up our Kelty stargazer, and I started making coffee and getting some food ready. We've had several tents over the last few years that we've traveled with, and this is the one that we've stuck with for the longest. It's made by Kelty, and the model is called the Stargazer. And we got the 3-person version because sometimes we have Redford with us, and he takes up about as much room as another person. So this was where I was explaining how much we love our Kelty Stargazer. Basically, this tent allows you to roll up the rain fly on one side, and you can leave it open, which gives you great ventilation, which is nice when you're camping in a hot environment and a sunny environment like Florida. The extra benefit is that you can roll down the rain fly in about 2 seconds. You just reach from the inside and undo these little clips, and you can roll the rain fly down, which has come in very handy in the past when it started raining in the middle of the night, so we didn't have to run around and put an entire rain fly back on. It's actually a great feature that has made this one of our favorite tents. Right across from our campsite were the group sites, and the group sites are beautiful. They have these live oak trees that you would be camping under, so you would actually have very nice shade on this side, and there was a great breeze that was going through. Such a nice spot. We sat there for a little while and talked about what we wanted to do with the afternoon, and we decided to head back to the main area of the park and go on some of the boardwalk trails that they have that go over the cypress swamps.
Well, you worried about you and me, the injustice, the next president to be, the news and what you hear, your career. It's time for you to face those fears, and it's all fair to be aware, and I'll be there, so don't be scared. Just take a deep breath of air, and 1, 2, 3 to 10, you begin to focus again, and though time flies, we'll have enough to realize.